A Shabbat Shalom Alkim. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders great millstone for teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Akwath. May listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will as always, another edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of wanted to discuss a little bit of exhortation in regards to milk, in regards to development, and really in regards to children being essentially underdeveloped. So I guess I'll just start off here in regards to so this is I have a website in front of me. I'm just looking at it right now. This is clevelandclinic.com, and it's talking about the benefits of breastfeeding. So just bear with me on this. I'm kind of a little all over the place when it comes to these different topics I'm just laying out, but something I was kind of just meditating on in regards to different books, proper nourishment, proper development, right? Because in the spirit, that's this can happen to this can happen to us, right? And I'm kind of speaking from experience as well in regards to development, self-development. So let me just start by reading this here. This is some of the benefits of breastfeeding. So it says, research suggests that breastfeeding lowers your baby's risk of certain diseases and can help build a strong immune system. So it lists a couple different diseases. So he has, like, for example, diarrhea, childhood obesity, eczema, type 2 diabetes later on in life, leukemia, cavities, asthma, so on and so forth. So below, it says nutritional benefits of breast milk. So it says breast milk contains everything your baby needs to grow and develop. It provides a unique and specific formula of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Breast milk supports your baby's health because it is easy for an immature tummy and intestines to digest. So in other words, it's a little bit it's something your a baby's stomach is able to like process, because it's not as difficult as if you compare it to something like a sirloin steak, a ribeye or a tomahawk. You're not giving a child a slice of tomahawk steak and say, hey, here you go, here's some mashed potatoes, have this, right? You're going to give something a little bit easier for those children to develop. You're not going to give them something too heavy, right? Because they're not able to break it down, right? And not that the mashed potatoes and the steak don't have nutrients that your body needs. They're very filled with nutrients. However, it's not, the texture is different. That baby doesn't have all their teeth in. That baby doesn't have a proper stomach to, break down those foods, essentially. Moving on. So it says it contains antibodies that protect against infection and boost immunity. Has a right amount of fat, sugar, water, protein, vitamins for your baby's development. Promotes healthy weight gain, changes in composition to meet your baby's nutritional needs over time. It says contains substances that naturally soothe your baby. So it says components of breast milk. And so it says it includes carbohydrates such as lactose, which supports a healthy balance of bacteria in your baby's stomach. It says fats that help your baby's brain and the nervous system develop proteins like lactoferrin, um, that protect your baby from infections. So essentially, oh, hold on. Let me just finish this off. It says vitamins to help your baby's growth, white blood cells that help your baby, that helps to fight infection. So all these things the milk contains in order to provide the essentials for that baby to help to best um, what's the word I'm looking for, to supply to its development and growth. Now you might be thinking, Requai, why are you reading this? Why is this making? I don't understand this. Now bear with me. Now I'm comparing this in also in the spiritual sense also, because when we come in, to this understanding, sometimes, speaking from experience, we want to get into a lot of the heavier topics, and get into heavy, deeper, quote unquote mysteries, right? And sometimes in the sight of having a more understanding in regards to heavier topics, we lose sight of or we lose importance and forget and disregard the importance of that milk, in importance of those basics, those fundamentals, things that we need to essentially add to our development, right? Speaking for myself, like for example, you know, like I'm the type of brother, for me, I like a lot of different books, right? Now, it's one thing, you get into a lot of these different books, right? But it can be very, very detrimental for two reasons, because you can get lost in the sauce, and the second reason is it can also provide or create a sense of pride, right? So let me get some precepts. Hold on. I'm doing a lot of talking here. This is, let me start off with Ecclesiastes. So just bear with me on this. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 12. And it says, "And further, by these, my son, be admonished, of the making of many books, there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh." In the NLT it says, "But my child, let me give you some further advice. Be careful, for writing books is endless, and much study wears you out." Right? So this is, as a matter of fact, let me read verse 13. And it says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Right? So I'm reading these, because, as young men, in the spirit, we have, a zeal, we want to learn more. And then sometimes, a lot of us make the mistake, I've made this mistake also, of, wanting to know a lot of the, I guess, the deeper mysteries, knowing to know a lot of the I guess, the heavier breakdowns, and this is not to take away from the importance of the breakdowns, and also wanting to know sometimes a lot of the information, like a lot of the, the elders and apostles might bring out, right? So, there's a strong zeal there, right? But, there is no end to, all these different books, right? And speaking from experience, for myself, there were different books I wanted to read, but I had to essentially learn to kind of like cut back and refocus a lot on the importance on essentially milk, because I realize, it's so important. Those milk is so essentially foundational, right? Let me go to um, okay, let me start off with Isaiah actually. Actually, I'll start off with Proverbs. Hold on. I think it's 25. Okay, this is Proverbs 25, verse 16, and it says, Hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be the, lest thou be filled therewith and vomit it. Right? So it says in the NLT, do you like honey? Don't eat too much and it will make you sick, right? So in the spiritual sense, don't eat essentially too much, all at once, right? And this is one of the mistakes, for myself I've made, and it can cause you to essentially, it can it one of the things that can happen as a result, to having so much access to all this information. So a lot of this information that you have access to in regards to, I'm talking about other books, right, that the apostles and elders might recommend, you know a lot of this information is essentially is basically objective information, and a lot of the simpleness of the scriptures, when you go into books like Proverbs and Ecclesiasticus, Psalms, a lot of these things you kind of refer to, in regards to, different situations, or even a lot of the writings of Apostle Paul, or even some of the stories, because the scriptures say the story, the things that are written aforetime are also written for our learning, right? So going back into a lot of these things, it helps to be able to properly nourish, that character, nourish, our bodies properly, because it has all the vitamins and the minerals and the nutrients that we need, right? As opposed to being a very undernourished child, a very malnourished child in the spirit, that has a lot of understanding in regards to a lot of these major breakdowns, different mysteries, and so on and so forth. This is not to knock the importance of knowing breakdowns and deeper mysteries, but there is another aspect to it when it comes to different things like character, etiquette, not being essentially like a lion in your house, brotherly kindness, a lot of these little things, essentially they go a long way, right? And one of the things that can also result from, having this a lot of understanding, like for myself, you know, I don't want to make the video about me completely, but I'm just using myself as an example, so just bear with me. You know, um, I like a lot of history when it comes to the Dark Ages, right? And a lot of that information is like, okay, it's factual, but when it comes to things to actually apply to your own, like in life and situations, then those are the kinds of things that you're gonna need. Those are the nutrients you're gonna need, because for myself, I remember dealing with particular situations. For example, dealing with, a father. Then that's when that milk, came in handy. Knowing how to properly, um, conduct yourself with, a father who's not able to, he may be, I don't want to say lacking in understanding, but basically, his mental strength isn't always there. So what happens is there's a certain level of patience that's also required in also applying a lot of these precepts in these different situations, in tribulation and going through certain afflictions, right? And knowing that if extra information is good, I'm not knocking the importance of that information, but you know, I'm not. The point is, don't neglect the fundamentals. Let me just leave it like that. Don't neglect these fundamentals, right? Okay, let me go to. As a matter of fact, I wanted to get this. That's something that Apostle Paul said, actually. Second Corinthians. This is another thing that can also result from actually having lots of revelations and so on and so forth, right? So this is Second Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7. And it says, and even though, I'm reading in NLT, and it says, and even though I have received such wonderful revelations from the Most High, Yahweh, Bashem El Shai, so to keep me from becoming proud, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me and keep me from becoming proud. And that's one of the reasons, I guess the benefits of having a thorn, right? It's not always comfortable, but it helps to kind of keep you in check. Because, sometimes when you have all this information and, you have all this extra information and it's great and you can use it and you can share it with the body, wisdom does puff up. Like, let's be honest, right? So going back into that thorn, the Lord, can easily put a thorn in your side and kind of just, kind of keep you in check, kind of keep you balanced, kind of keep you humble, and make sure you're not flying too high, basically, kind of keep you lower to the ground, make sure you stay more grounded, because we're still, servants at the end of the day, regardless of how much it is we know, regardless of our position, regardless of, who we are, right? We still want to maintain a certain level of humility, right? I'll read verse 8, and it says, three different times I begged the Lord to take it away, and each time he said, my grace is all you need. Yahushua speaking. My power works best in weakness, so I am glad to boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of a Mashiach Yahushua can work through me, right? So that's, pretty much the point, that's, because that's one of the things that can come about when, you have a lot of, understanding of a lot of mysteries. And then, it shows when that thorn in your side is essentially just to keep you at a grounded, level-headed mindset. It's not to get too proud and think that, we're all this and that, because at the end of the day, we still need a savior. Like, let's be honest, right? So, let me go to, this is First Peter's chapter 2, verse 1, and it says, so to, in the NLT, it says, so get rid of all evil behavior, be done with all deceit, hypocrisy, jealousy, and all unkind speech. As newborn babies, you must crave the pure spiritual milk, so that you will grow into a full experience of salvation. Cry out for this nourishment, now that you have a taste of the Lord's kindness, right? So a lot of these things that are listed in the first precept here, so deceit, hypocrisy, jealousy, like all these things are carnal, are earthly minded. This is things of the world, right? And this is something that, can essentially creep up on us, if we're not, careful, because sometimes we might feel those certain ways, and then have certain thoughts, and Satan tries to kind of get in and try and cause a rift between you and brothers and so on and so forth, because whatever brothers might be talented in, a certain level of jealousy can creep in, and Satan trying to get a foothold into your armor, into your mind, right? And that's all these jealousy and malice and so on and so forth. That's all invitations for Satan, right, to kind of get in, right? And if you look at, like, I'll give you an example, um like King Saul, for example. Like King Saul, um after David had slain Goliath, you know essentially you start to see the decline of Saul's behavior, and he went from uh, uh, um, he went from a type of king, being the first anointed, and he just went like he just went on a downward spiral. He just went from there to essentially being somebody who was essentially attacking David, right? You start to see the carnal behavior, a carnal nature come out on him. There's even an account of him throwing javelins at David. As a matter of fact, let me just get it. um just to prove the point about jealousy, malice, all these different fruits of the flesh, right? Okay, this is First Samuel 18:10, and it says, "And the very next day in the NLT, a tormenting spirit of the Most High overwhelmed Saul and began to rave in his house like a madman. David was playing the harp as he did each day, but Saul had a spear in his hand and hurled it at David, intending to pin him to the wall. But David escaped him twice." Right? So, that's pretty much the point. These are some of the things that can happen, not being careful, because you start to see how carnal David, sorry, how carnal Saul, started to become. And the scriptures say that in a spirit that has a lot of like malice, like wisdom can't dwell in somebody like that. Let me go to that. Let me find that just to prove the point. Okay, this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 4. And it says, "For into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in a body that is subject to sin." Right? So, wisdom can't dwell in somebody like who's behaving like that, like King Saul, that actually has some sort of friction or some sort of tension between him and his own kin, right? And I can, you could kind of parallel that to, like, if we have some sort of like friction or tension between, ourselves and another brother, like wisdom can't dwell within somebody like that, because it's not a healthy environment, right? So going back to the point about you know not getting too carried away into, I guess, heavier topics. Well, let me say it like this. Wanting to have understanding in these things is good, but it it it's not to neglect. Is remembering the basics, remembering fruits of the spirit. Like the scriptures say, put on therefore the elect, right? Remembering these different traits and the fruits, that are more pleasing to the Most High, because as somebody, a corrupt tree can't bring forth good fruit, right? And Saul was an example of a corrupt tree trying to bring forth, a corrupt tree, and he can't bring forth good fruit. Only a good tree can bring forth good fruit, right? And a corrupt tree brings forth corrupt evil fruit. Basically, when you go into that word in Matthew 7, it's karpos, meaning a deed, right? So just to show, in terms of works, somebody is not going to not a person who is corrupt is not going to bring forth corrupt, going to bring forth good deeds. They're going to bring forth corrupt deeds, right? So let me read verse Peter again. Just bear with me. Okay, this is I'm just gonna read verse. It says verse 2, and it says, like newborn babies in NLT, you must crave the spiritual milk so that you will grow into a full experience of salvation. Cry out for this nourishment. Now you have had a taste of the Lord's kindness, right? So, that is a lot of these, that sincere milk, like the scriptures is talking about. That helps us to be able to grow, so we know how to conduct ourselves with, family, with people in the world, with people, um, we know how to be peaceable with all men, like Paul says. We know how to have a certain level of etiquette amongst ourselves. We know how to have a certain level of brotherly kindness amongst ourselves, charity, um, forbearance, all these little things, like these things essentially they go a long way, right? Like this is the saying in the world, like the little things go a long way, right? So there's one more I wanted to get. Oh, I think it's in Peter's. Okay, this is 2 Peter's chapter 1 verse 5. And it says, and besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and virtue knowledge, and knowledge temperance, and temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly caringness charity. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Yahushua Hamashiach. In the NLT it says, the more you grow like this, the more productive and useful you will be in the knowledge of our Lord Yahushua Hamashiach, right? So it shows you, different traits, that we exemplify, because that helps in proper growth. And you know what? As I was reflecting even before I made this lesson, a lot of the things that myself, gone through in regards to, like, my father specifically, a lot of, dealing with, in those situations, I never had to, remember, for example, the breakdown of Daniel, the 7th chapter. Like, I'm not, and again, this is not to knock the importance of the breakdowns, right? But at the same time, I'm not taking away the importance of that, but I'm kind of just honing in on the emphasis of the fundamentals, right? Because a lot of those nuggets of wisdom we get, in those like these like the Proverbs and the Psalms and the Ecclesiasticus and so on and so forth. All of these things, and even the stories too, right? The scriptures say, inquire in search of your forefathers, so to speak, to roughly paraphrase, right? And going into these things, we learn how certain forefathers acted, so we know how to apply these things in order to essentially add these different traits of growth into our character, into us, as um, as well-rounded individuals, not like a malnourished individual, right? That's missing a lot of vitamins and nutrients, the important things, the brotherly kindness, right? As a matter of fact, I guess I'll end off with this last precept, because this is something that Yahushua said. Okay, this is Matthew 22 verse 36, and it says, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Yahushua said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy power with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is unto it, that thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, right? So, Yahushua is, just laying it down like, okay, you love the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, all your might, right? And you love your neighbor, your own brethren, as yourself, right? Because even Yahushua said, who is my mother and my brother, and so on and so forth, them that do the will, right? But it also even can, trickles down to like how you treat, those around you, right? Your family, your children, right? Parents, right? As that, because we're essentially a spectacle, essentially we're shine as lights in this world full of filth and wickedness, right? So anyways, that's pretty much the point I kind of wanted to hit there, just to kind of sum it all up, knowing, the deeper things of the scriptures is great, knowing all these things is great, but sometimes, we lose sight of a lot of the simple things, manners, etiquette, how to treat one another, right? A lot of these little things, they definitely do go a long way, right? So anyways, Lord's will, this was edifying. I didn't want to make this too long, but something I was just meditating on my spirit. But just like to close up and give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.